5 things I wish I knew to adopt zero waste and circular economy. 1. Expand your definition of waste. Because most organizations think of waste just a waste of time, or even waste being part of the process. Yet, with a very quick reality check, we ought to account for waste of time, but also of efforts, finance, materials, energy, transport. And when I work with clients on, for example, value stream mapping, which is a very common agile practice, I encourage them to extend and track all these variables, not just time. And one client, just by looking at the return process alone, so not just the resale opportunity of products sitting there doing nothing, let alone the warehouse cost reduction. 2, which is design circularity from inception, not an afterthought. One of the key elements of circular economy thinking is design of waste from the product inception phase. I often work with software-related organizations, and yes, they can also reduce waste from inception. Just a 15-minute conversation recently almost halved the data tables and therefore significantly also reduced the processing required. And most soon will realize that technology infrastructure is consuming an enormous amount of energy. Also, fresh woods are rare earth materials. And by redesigning the architecture from the start with energy efficient in mind, also choosing greener data centers, optimizing code, implementing hibernation protocols, reducing noise, focusing on value, one can reduce the carbon footprint by a significant amount whilst actually improving performance. 3, create triadic connections. That's how I call it. These triadic connections across your organization, because nature shows us that some very efficient networks operate in that sort of mode, that each node connects to approach 3 or more to create that optimal flow with built-in resilience within its system. For example, a manufacturing client is embedding this approach of triadic connections and already discovered that the procurement, design, and operations have never really collaborated too directly, and they have identified already significant potential on annual savings by redesigning products for easier material recovery. 4, embrace edge effect. Because the most innovative solutions emerge at the edges where different systems meet. In one organization I work with, the customer service and product development teams rarely sort of interacted, and customer service insight led to product improvements that not only reduced cost of serve, also extended product lifespan, which is a perfect circular economy outlook, if you ask me. When we create deliberate edge spaces, great things can emerge. Where can you expand your edge today? And how about the edges of the spaces themselves? The products, the materials, how can those be regenerative by design? Think clean air, water, creating habitat, foment biodiversity, ecosystem services. And then 5, which is fractal feedback loops. And I often say that there is a very big feedback delay, and if we had a magic switch to turn off all the greenhouse gas emissions right now, it will take decades, if not centuries, to see what the effects of what we have already released into the atmosphere. So we need to reduce that delay and make adaptive, conscious, informed decisions. And some of my work on carbon accounting software is to evolve from an after-the-fact report to a close real time, so that monthly, especially quarterly circular economy reviews can be implemented, tracking materials, energy, waste across the entire value chain. And this rapid feedback also allows to make adjustments in real time rather than after the fact annually. Therefore, it accelerates the progress where it ought to go.